Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special edition episode of the AI Educator from EdSafe AI. In this episode, we are highlighting an AI enthusiast from our Policy Lab network to not only answer our 3 questions, but also share a short snippet of their work implementing safe AI policies and practices within the state of Wyoming. So today, we are thrilled to be joined by Stephen Priest, digital learning consultant at the Wyoming Department of Education. Thank you so much for joining us today, Stephen.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so let's start out with just setting some context for the listeners. Tell us about the work Wyoming Department of Ed did this year to release the AI Toolkit. Where did it start, and what steps did you take to get to where you are today?
As we started working with the EdSafe policy uh, uh, group, we're looking at what was a problem that we wanted to solve, and how did we want to help our districts. And one of the things that we kept coming back to was that our districts needed some resources to really help them with, especially with the parents, if they're doing a parent night, or with their community members, or even with using it in the classroom with students and so forth. Most of our districts, with the most recent survey that we had, we were right almost at 60% of our districts that have a policy in place. With a lot of our other districts in that policy pipeline of building that policy around AI, whether it's policy or guidance or something around there, because we've provided a lot of resources, we've provided a lot of training and so forth around that, and have continued to do so. So we wanted to continue providing those resources, providing information around building policy, but we also wanted to provide other resources around implementing AI, because that's what a lot of the teacher or the districts have asked for, is how do we get from the policy piece to the actual practical use and that practical implementation in the classroom, in helping our teachers use it. How do we provide that information to our parents and to our community members of what AI is, how we might be using it in the classroom, and so forth. So that's really where the brainchild of the AI toolkit came, of building something out that our districts can use, and something that they might want to. They have a kind of a repository of resources, both from us at the Department of Education and from other places nationally, and wherever there were resources that we might be able to provide them, that they can have just one place to go to and get those resources.
Awesome. And I know when we first started talking, it was kind of everyone's in a bit of a different place. So this toolkit can really allow them to address their needs where they're at and take what applies to them. How did you make the decision to host this toolkit on Canvas? Because that's a little bit different than other resources we've seen.
Yeah. So we have Canvas as our statewide learning management system. And with that, then we use it for all of our professional development, and all of our school district staff, all of our teachers, all of our principals, all of our tech directors, everybody is in our Canvas system at the department. So they all have access to it. It's just an easy way to be able to share that out, and then they can interact with it. They can download those resources out of Canvas if they want to, and then they can have that access. The way we've set it up is the one page is all the Wyoming specific policies, and that page is editable by those in the class or the toolkit. So those administrators as they make changes. If they find that they've changed where their policy or their guidance document is has changed, they can change that. They don't have to rely on me to go in and make that change. When I may be out at a conference somewhere and not be able to make that change very quickly. The other thing is in that Canvas course, we can make those changes very quickly. Um, we know this technology is changing and evolving very, very rapidly. We can update that Canvas course on a continual basis, where making changes to a website um, takes a process. We have to go through our process and make those changes, and it takes a little bit more time. But we can make the changes to our Canvas course a lot more quickly, and still make sure that everything is accessible and ready for our districts much more rapidly.
Great. And that's something that's come up a lot on our podcast is how do we address that, rapid pace of evolution for regarding AI. And this is another excellent example of how to create more of an evergreen place for resources. So I'm going to kind of end this snippet of the podcast with one more question. How do you envision this toolkit will support your state with the safe and effective use of AI moving forward?
It we envision this supporting all of our districts with that safe and effective use of AI, just by providing those resources as the technology changes. Um, so we've already got resources in there, like I said, on policy development. We've put resources in there on vetting those AI tools. I build out some resources and some apps and a gym that you utilize the the CETA procurement guide, the EdTech index, uh, as the with the quality EdTech indicators as a basis and kind of the knowledge base to evaluate those AI tools. In Wyoming, we have a lot of small districts, so our 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 tech directors wear a lot of hats. So we wanted to provide them as a starting point to just enter in a website or enter in the tool that they want to evaluate and just give it a score or a grade according to those quality ed tech indicators and give them a starting point to look at those tools. Um, so that'll help them at least start that vetting process. They still want to do their due diligence. They still want to do their own deep dive into those tools, but at least give them a starting point on where to go with those. So we have that in the in that AI toolkit as well. We added things that aren't necessarily AI related, but we added some screen time stuff in there because that's another big thing that's coming up. So we want to make sure that we're continuing to adapt to those needs as it goes, as things come up and things that evolve around not only AI but emerging technologies. So that's how we envision it is this is an evolving toolkit that will continue to adapt and evolve for our leaders in the state and will continue to help them be able to utilize this technology in a safe, effective, and ethical way.
Thank you, Stephen. All of that is incredibly useful information. And I know we're excited to see that toolkit evolve over time and address those timely needs, like you said, about screen time and other areas that are bound to bubble up as AI evolves. So, in the spirit of the AI educator, we are now going to dive into our rapid fire questions. Are you ready?
Yep.
Okay, so here we go. What's one thing that excites you most about the future of AI in education?
I think the thing that really excites me most is just the possibilities. Um, we've talked for a long time about how to be able to personalize education and how to truly differentiate things. Um, and um, we really have that potential with AI to truly differentiate education and truly rethink what we're doing in education. and there's a lot of potential there. So I think what excites me most is to really truly rethink what we're doing and truly personalize education for all learners, whether it's the students in the most need um, for assistance or those students at the highest levels. We can truly help all students grow and personalize education for their interest and what they really want to do, um, uh, and what their interests are. So I'm really excited about those possibilities.
I love that you highlight that because educators know that personalized learning is effective. They know that that is one of the best ways to provide an education to their students, but often the tools to do that are incredibly limited. So AI kind of opens that door. I'm going to jump us right into our next question here. So, what's the biggest misconception you hear about the safe and responsible use of AI in schools?
I think the biggest misconception that I hear a lot is that we can't use it because um, that data privacy is such a concern that we can't use it. And data privacy is a concern. I'm not gonna uh, say that it's not. I truly think that we have to be very careful in how we're using it, and we have to be very careful with what we're putting into AI and how we're implementing it. But I think there are ways to safely use it and make sure that we're doing things in a safe, ethical, and responsible way. And if we work with our vendors and we lead um, as educational leaders how we want AI implemented in our schools, in our districts, and have our parents and our students help us decide how we want AI implemented in our schools and our districts, then we can decide how we want that implemented, and it's not led by the vendors or it's not led by somebody else. Um, but they're not learning how to use AI from an online platform. They're learning how to use it in a safe, ethical, and responsible way. Um, so I think it can be done, but I think it does take a lot of work and a lot of responsibility on us as educational leaders. So I think the biggest misconception is that it can't be done. We just ban it. And that's kind of a knee jerk reaction to a lot of educational technology sometimes. But it can be done, but we have to really think about how we do it in that safe, ethical, and responsible way.
You've really highlighted the need for AI literacy in that response, both in terms of data privacy and best practices. That is really what's going to drive this forward and make sure we're doing in a way that is safe, ethical, and responsible. Thanks, Stephen. So, finally, go ahead and round us out here with one of our favorite questions, and usually the one that contains that golden nugget for our listeners. What's a message you would share with a teacher or a school leader who's feeling overwhelmed by the rapid pace of AI development?
That I have people that ask me all the time, how do you keep up with everything? How do you how does anybody keep up with all the advancements in AI because it's changing so fast? My answer is you don't. You know, I subscribe to like 5 different of the TLDR, the too long didn't read emails, and I read the highlights of those. And so I know, a small snippet of what's going on in the industry, and I feel like I'm behind, and I feel like I'm well plugged in. Um, I went to an AI conference, and this is what helps me feel a little bit more relaxed about it, and I try to help the teachers and everybody else feel a little more relaxed about it. It was an AI conference with all the builders, all the quote unquote experts in AI, and and all the developers, and they stood on the stage and said. There are no experts in AI. Anybody that says they're an expert in AI, they're just trying to sell you something. We're all learning this together, And they use the analogy of a piano teacher. To be an expert piano teacher, you have to be 3 lessons ahead of your student. So to quote unquote be the expert in AI, be 3 lessons ahead of your students. And that made me feel at ease because I was a first year teacher before, and sometimes I was 3 lessons ahead of my students, sometimes less. So I felt a lot more at ease after that conference because those were the builders, those were the engineers in AI, and they were admitting that there are no real experts in AI. They're just 3 lessons ahead of us as we're learning it. So I felt a little more at ease and a little more confident after that because people were coming to me at that time and asking me about information on AI, especially AI governance and things. And I'm like, I'm not an expert in this. And they said, well, you know more than we do. And I said, I don't know that much more than you do. So I feel more confident in it now. Um, and you only have to be a couple lessons ahead of your kids to be the expert. So that's my advice is just be a couple lessons ahead.
Be a couple lessons ahead. What a wonderful statement to end on, Stephen, and very digestible for people who are feeling incredibly overwhelmed. Thank you so much for joining us today, for sharing about Wyoming and the work you've been doing there, as well as some of your personal experiences. I know you're a part of a lot of different groups in the EdTech and AI space, so just really appreciate you being here to share with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, listeners, there you have it. 3 quick questions and a wealth of information from the Wyoming Department of Education, a member of our State Policy Lab cohort. You can view some more information about their AI toolkit on aipolicylab.org, and we'll also link that in the show notes as well. Stay tuned for our next episode, where we'll put another AI enthusiast in the hot seat. Thanks for tuning in to today's episode of the AI Educator. If you liked this episode, please subscribe on Podbean, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts and leave us a 5-star review. We also encourage you to visit our website at edsafeai.org, where you can find information on EdSafe initiatives, our self-paced policy course, and resources from our policy labs and partners. See you next time.